We have this from the Daily Wire. Trump's inauguration to be moved indoors. Officials were worried about the health of those attending due to the freezing temperatures that are expected. Now, the first thing, polar vortex, ladies and gentlemen. They're saying the polar vortex is coming, and it's going to be very cold, too cold maybe, and so they're going to have to go inside. Now, the news around this in the immediate is that a lot of people who had tickets to the inauguration are getting notifications that they can no longer attend. Indoors means much, much smaller capacity. I'm curious, however, if any y'all have a theory as to a different theory as to why they may be moving.
I can speak on this a little bit. You know, as you guys know, I used to be especially with DHS, and I've done Secret Service details before. And I will tell you guys, I mean, obviously the fact that he's been almost assassinated twice is going to play a role into that. And to them, they're like, look, we just want to get this done. They're obviously probably stressing out right now. They're making sure that he's going to be safe, because the worst thing that could happen is something happened to the president-elect on Inauguration Day. So I think this is more of a self-preservation. Whoever the director of the Secret Service is right now is like, I'm not going to get cheated. We're going to bring him inside. We're going to make sure this is good, and we're going to get it done.
Cheated?
Yeah, cheated. So that's what I would say is like they're just trying to avoid headaches.
Here you go from the Post-Millennial. D.C. area police refuse to help secure Trump inauguration event. As soon as that happens, Trump probably said, bring it inside.
They used health instead of safety and claimed freezing temperatures instead of, well, they rioted last time we elected him.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. We're just forced to have this horrible deal in Israel that Trump forced upon them. And they said, hey, your inauguration was supposed to be beautiful weather. We might have to turn down the temps a little bit.
So they have a special harp.
But in all seriousness...
I just want to say this.
Choose
YouTube, he's joking, please. Don't ban me.
In all seriousness, it's just actually really cold, and I don't think there's any foul play here.
Yeah. And then also, I think it's important for people
not as funny, though. It's not as interesting, if you know.
The Secret Service is heavily dependent upon other law enforcement agencies to augment their security details. So them saying, hey, we don't want to be involved there, we're not going to be able to give you as much manpower as you want, that is going to play a huge role in how much the Secret Service is, or what they're going to do. Because, and this kind of got exposed when he got shot the first time in Butler, is they're too overly reliant on other agencies. So I think this also plays a big role in, okay, if you guys can't give us what we need, we're just not going to do it. Versus like maybe prior like if there had never been an assassination attempt, they'd kind of like make do and they'd bring other people in. But now they're like, you know what? No, we're never going to try it.
I think security is a big factor here.
Huge.
The media is calling it a conspiracy. Look at this. Daily Mail says MAGA Republicans spark deep state conspiracy theories as Trump's inauguration is moved indoors. Security fears. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, I have personally attended countless rallies where President Trump spoke in extreme weather conditions from cold to rain to heat. Is there a security threat or other than extreme cold temperatures, not only for him, but for the people? I think it's highly likely. We had already heard that there was, I believe it was the Secret Service or the FBI issued a statement that there was a severe threat from politically aggrieved individuals coming up in D.C. this week.
Yeah.
That report dropped. We covered that last week. Next thing we know, they're going indoors saying it's for the cold. I think they may fear this drone stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, just me putting on my old agent hat, like if I was the director of Secret Service and I'm like responsible for his safety, given all the fucking issues that have occurred over the past few months, I want this to be done as nicely as possible, smooth, no issues. We got threats, whatever. I'm going to mitigate as many risks as I can. He's indoors. I can control everything. I control who goes in, who goes out. There's no open air. Like they can't afford for anything to even from a micro level look bad. So, yeah, I mean, if I was the director, I'd put him inside too. I'd be like, your safety is paramount, and we're not even going to risk it.
I'm going to disagree. The Capitol's actually very easy to get inside of. They will just open doors for you and walk right in.
Fair enough.
There's going to be some dude dressed like a shaman.
Better than outside, then.
Instead of the American flag, he's got a pride flag.
Yeah.
So at Trump's last inauguration, there were actually many protesters outside, and I believe there were many fights. Or not fights, Trump supporters getting assaulted.
I was there.
So maybe they're trying to prevent something like that.
It was several hundred people running around smashing windows, starting fires. They torched some vehicles, and the police arrested some 200 of them. I was initially caught in the group of those arrested, and I calmly waited, holding up a press badge until I was able to get out. Many others were arrested, charged with conspiracy, ultimately found, had their charges dropped, sued the city, and won $1 million.
Do you think we'll see anything like that this year?
Yep. Now I say yes, but these people do not like bad weather. Leftists will scream and bash their faces on the table, screaming revolution, and then it starts raining, and they say, "You want to go inside and have tea and play video games instead?"
Yeah.
Like, it is wild to me, having covered all these protests. And I don't know if you've experienced this too a lot, but like, they'll put out a flyer being like, "We're protesting. Everyone show up at, Union Square," or whatever. And then it rains and like 10 people show up.
Yeah, bad weather definitely tamps down the crowds a bit. I haven't seen any
The opposite
flyers.
of the post office,
I haven't seen any flyers and stuff this inauguration. I was surprised. We'll see what the reaction is this time around. Last time around, there was the Women's March. We'll see if something like that comes into play.
It'd be funny if that, like, now that we're hearing that deep state people are quitting, Donald Trump is coming in, that all of a sudden Antifa just ceases to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mean,
A lot of
there
DC
weren't any protests at almost any Trump rallies this time around. No protesters at all, which was a bit shocking to me because the first time around,
Well, because, like I said, the deep state is gone.
They just gave up. Well, Trump became normalized a bit, and you can only fearmonger for how many years? 7, 8 years before it's just like, wait, this guy was already.
We should make a group called Antifa for Trump, and then show up in D.C. wearing like masks and everything, but waving American flags with Trump on it.
It was just cheaper to hire one person, honestly, than have riots all summer long.
I think that there's just not the energy there anymore. I really, like, we've talked about this a little bit. There has to be at least a baseline of people that are really upset, and without the stuff that came with the George Floyd situation, you don't see the same kind of people freaking out. Even the first time that he got elected, I wouldn't be surprised if when he actually gets inaugurated, there is a little bit of, there are some issues in D.C., like, there was that dude that his limousine was caught on fire and there were some windows broken. That might happen, but I don't imagine that it's going to be a significant issue this time. I think that the energy is just gone. I think people aren't, it's not as convincing, the fascist. I don't think that convinces people the way that it used to.
Trump won the popular vote.
Yeah.
People were convinced Trump is the right choice at this point.
Yeah.
So a lot of the bodies that Antifa and far leftists needed to provide the cover for them voted for Trump.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But
I think at this point, it's Secret Service just kind of, they got a blemish. So they're like, dude, we're not even going to risk it. I mean, look, I'll tell you how bad it was, right? So this is me kind of going in the weeds here, but just to explain like the situation. After Trump got shot in July, the RNC was right after, right? And when I was there at the RNC, I saw FBI agents there. I was like, in plainclothes, right? Doing security. And I was like, wow, you never see FBI do fucking security details. That's a Secret Service, DHS thing typically. They don't bring in DOJ agents in. So the fact that they brought them in, I was like, okay, like they're really like, okay, we can't afford to have anything happen here. So I think at this point, right, we just got to get our guys sworn in nicely and safely, and no director of Secret Service wants to take a risk and have their neck on the chopping block. What they saw happen to Cheadle, they're like, nope, we're just going to make sure he's good, he gets sworn in, and we don't have to deal with no
Who is it right now? Do you know?
It's probably the guy that it's a guy, I forget his name. He had to testify after the fact. He was the deputy director. He's more than likely acting, I'm assuming. Because that's how the government works, because they never actually want to hire anybody. They just make them act for free. So that's how it goes with the government. So that's how I knew it was like bad. When I saw like bureau agents there, I was like, what the fuck? Like, to pull these guys out of the JTTF for this?
Well, here's my expectation for the for the next term. The Babylon Beast has announcement. The Babylon Beast will shut down, as there will be nothing to make fun of during the perfect Trump administration.
Yeah.
I bet.
That's how we all feel. I hope every liberal hears this and clips this. Trump can't do anything wrong. Literally everything he's ever done has been perfect, no matter what. Even when he fired rockets into Syria, nope, perfect. Commando raised
They were
Yemen,
perfect
don't care, perfect. Yeah, it was all done. It's too perfect, too good of administration actually. And Trump can't do anything wrong because Trump is perfect.
I injected bleach on his recommendation. And
It worked out well, didn't it?
it did.
Worked out well.
Don't do that. But it is pretty wild to me that we had this debate this morning with some liberals, and the question they kept asking was, "Can you defend Trump's actions?" And it's just like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, some of them you criticize, like he's not perfect, but like the world that liberals live
They're
in.
more concerned about like the peaceful transfer of power. And I was like, well, you guys always forget that like the election was well, it really was. I was like, dude, there was an overwhelming amount of evidence to show that at least it warrants an investigation. So it's like,
well, but
he's a fascist, he's an authoritarian.
Even if you're uncomfortable
so
saying
I
that it was
would-
stolen, like if you can at least acknowledge that it was a novel election and having mailing out ballots and then having people go collect those ballots, that is
Dude, I listed off
Completely
20
unprecedented.
things, like 10
Yeah.
or 20 things of like issues that we had with this election. And they're like, well, geolocation. I'm like, okay, what about the other like 19 things I named? And it's like,
There's actually one issue that needs to be answered that was never answered that could have changed the results of the election, and it was none of the things you mentioned.
What was it?
It was the unilateral altering of the elections by governors and judges, which violates the Constitution.
Yep.
And so,
Individual state constitutions.
right. Well, and no, the federal Constitution, which dictates that the legislatures of the state determine how elections are run. So when a judge decreed universal mail-in voting, violation of the Constitution. When a governor decreed universal mail-in voting, violation of the Constitution. And Pennsylvania, a lower court ruled that
oh, yes. Okay.
the Republicans were correct on the merits and would likely win. That implementing universal mail-in voting violated the Constitution and the proper procedure was not put in place. When it went to the higher court in the state, the Supreme Court was Democrat appointees. They said, no, we're going to allow it anyway. A lawsuit was had. 48 states got involved. Texas v. Pennsylvania. And Texas said, we cannot be party to an election. This is, I'm paraphrasing, or paralegaling. They were basically saying that Pennsylvania violated the Constitution and their votes should be null. How is it fair that we abide by the rules of the Constitution? They don't, but our votes get weighed the same. And the Supreme Court, ever being the cowards they are, said, we will not answer this question. Thomas and Alito were based AF and said, let's absolutely answer that question. We should. We're the Supreme Court. It's a question for us. It's called original jurisdiction. And the rest of the justices were like, no, please, we're scared. They'll say mean things to us. So now, as a nation, we do not have an answer to the question of what happens when states unilaterally, through executive authority, alter an election's rules in violation of the federal Constitution. That is a constitutional crisis, and it's never been answered, needs to be answered, and it's shocking that we're in this position. So to all those liberals who are like, Trump did this, Trump did that, I'll be like, don't care. Several states, the governors, like Georgia, said, we're doing it this way. You can't do that. That's unconstitutional, and it's never been ruled on. And the issue of standing happens when someone would say, I'm a voter in this state. I do not like that they changed the rules. It impacts the results of the election. The courts would say, no standing because you are not running for office. Then Donald Trump would sue, and they would say, no standing because it's moot. They wouldn't say no standing. They would say moot, that the outcome of changing this would not alter the election substantively, so we will actually not take the merits. So they didn't actually get a chance to argue what should have been argued. I viewed it as largely corrupt and procedural, but there is actually only one point that matters for 2020. I mean, the first thing I'll say is it's over. Trump wins. In 3 days, he'll be president, and we can all just say, okay, it actually worked out well for us in that he created this coalition with RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
But the only question, now I forgot what I was going to say was the only question that mattered. Because I was getting.
Well, while you think of it, what I was gonna say was I just find it interesting how like they just wanted to go right at the fascism, like, oh, he's a fascist because he did X, Y, Z, didn't want to have the peaceful transfer of power, as if like he didn't have a cause to say, well, we need to question this election because it's BS. And I like what you mentioned with the courts, what I mentioned, like it warranted an investigation at bare minimum. Like it's not like the MAGA movement was like, oh, this is bullshit. No, like there was like questions there with this election.
The only
we'll
thing
get
that
one now?
the only thing that mattered in 2020 was that power won. You can claim it was stolen from Trump. You can claim whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Joe Biden won the power in the game of politics. And if you think politics is a game played where you get as many votes as possible, I got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
So when I say Joe Biden wins, and a lot of people go, no, he didn't win. Trump actually won. It was stolen. I'll be like, look, man.
And he got more votes than Kamala, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. No. Kamala got more votes.
Okay.
Two powerful entities are vying for power. They're playing a game. You abided by the rules and you lost. Then you said, we actually won. No, because there's one man sitting in the throne. And then what does he do? Utilizes the power of the federal government to go after Trump and all of his opponents. Doesn't sound like Trump won that to me.
Yeah.
So you can say winning is a gentleman's game where we sit down and count the votes. Meanwhile, the Democrats walk in, stuff the ballot, and then say, who won? Yeah. And you go, well, we would have if you didn't stuff the ballots. No, prove it.
I continue.
We're not going to let you because we win.
Yeah, and you can't even investigate it because you don't have the Justice Department.